welcome to Tanakh Talk. I'm your host, William Hall, broadcasting live Kingsland, Texas, USA, with another episode of Debunking the Christian Playbook with Dayvaughn Mays. Welcome back, my dear friend. It's always a pleasure. How are you?
I am good. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. People ask me sometimes, is that thing pre-recorded, the intro? And I'm like, nope. It's live every time.
That's nice.
So interesting.
You got a live band in the back. You don't tell nobody about.
Yeah, we got the drummer hidden in the basement. That's funny. Good deal. So we're on Isaiah 53:7.
We are.
We're taking this thing taking it apart one piece at a time, and that's what needs to happen. You know, because we have so many things that get generalized because you don't think that's necessary to pull that out, but it is. It's very necessary to just make this as granular as possible. I mean, every little pixel we've got to explore, and that's what you're doing here. So, looking forward to this again.
Yeah. So I will share my screen.
Very good. I'll switch over as soon as you get your share up.
You see it?
I do. We are good to go. It's all yours.
All right. So Isaiah 53, the suffering servant. We are dealing with verse 7. So it says, he was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He was led as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth. So we know that different writers of the New Testament take this verse, and of course they apply it to Jesus, but let's see what really is going on. So when Israel was led into captivity in Babylon, there was no resistance, right? You have Psalm 44:11 tells us, you have given us up like sheep intended for food and have scattered us among the nations. Psalm 44:22, we face death all day for you. We are like sheep on their way to be slaughtered. We are like sheep on their way to be slaughtered. So read all Psalm 44 in context, and you will see you will not find Jesus in there. So what makes people silent? Shame, right? When you're ashamed, you don't even want to lift up your head, right? Psalm 44:15, my dishonor is continually before me, and the shame of my face has covered me. Who is Psalm 44 talking about? Read the context, right? So what I don't like to do is force my opinion on things. I like people to go back and read Psalm 44 in context, read the whole thing, and, just apply it to whoever the writer is talking about. So I don't want you to think I'm trying to force my opinion here. So our affliction and our oppression, Psalm 44:24. Why do you hide your face and forget our affliction and our oppression? So Isaiah 53:7 says he was oppressed and he was afflicted. So we see again in Psalm 44, there are people who consider themselves led like sheep to a slaughter. They have shame. And it says, forget our affliction and our oppression, right? So Psalm 44 is pretty much a pretty decent chapter to deal with when you're dealing with Isaiah 53 verse 7. The expression is one that denotes great affliction. Psalm 44:25. For our soul is bowed down to the dust. Our body clings to the ground. So when your soul is bowed down to the dust, that's a pretty low state of mind, right? It could be full of shame. And if you're bowed down to the dust, you're not looking up, right? You're ashamed, right? Barnes notes on the Bible. For our soul is bowed down to the dust. That is, we are overborne with calamity so that we sink to the earth. The expression is one that denotes great affliction. Our belly cleaveth unto the earth. We are like animals that are prone upon the earth that cannot rise. The allusion may be to reptiles that cannot stand erect. The figure is intended to denote great prostration and affliction. So we see a commentary telling you the exact same thing. When somebody is oppressed and afflicted, they are bowed down to the ground, and it shows just the way that they speak in Psalm 44:25 that this is a really, really big problem for them that they're dealing with. So let's look at some parallel verses. Psalm 44:22-25. Yet for your sake we are killed all day long. We are accounted as sheep for the slaughter. Awake, why do you sleep, O Lord? Arise, do not cast us off forever. Why do you hide your face and forget our affliction and our oppression? For our soul is bowed down to the dust. Our body clings to the ground. Our body, that's the plural, right? Our body, is that one person talking or is that a collective, right? Our body, can our have a body? Usually one person has a body, right? But it says our body clings to the ground. Isaiah 53, 6-7. All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned away everyone his own way. And the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and he was afflicted. But you notice in Isaiah 53, 6, it says, all we like sheep. So who is the we? Then when it gets to verse 7, it says, he was oppressed and he was afflicted. Yet he opened not his mouth, and he was led like a lamb to the slaughter. And as a sheep before its shearers silent, so he opened not his mouth. You see how it's jumping back and forth? All we like sheep have gone astray, every one to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. Something to consider, right? Feed the flock for slaughter. Zechariah 11, 4-7. Thus said the Lord my God, feed the flock for slaughter. This is like the sheep being led to the slaughter, whose owners slaughter them and feel no guilt. Those who sell them say, blessed be the Lord, for I am rich, and their shepherds do not pity them. For I will no longer pity the inhabitants of the land, says the Lord, but indeed I will give everyone into his neighbor's hand and into the hand of his king. They shall attack the land, and I will not deliver them from their hand. So I fed the flock for slaughter, in particular the poor of the flock. I took for myself 2 staffs, the one I called beauty and the other I called bonds, and I fed the flock. So we see a flock being led to the slaughter, collectively talking about more than one person here. I was mute. I did not open my mouth because it was you who did it. Here's the same context of somebody who will not open his mouth because they know that they are ashamed and they deserve what they're getting, right? Psalm 39, 7-11. And now, Lord, what do I wait for? My hope is in you. Deliver me from all my transgressions. Do not make me the reproach of the foolish. I was mute. I did not open my mouth because it was you who did it. Remove your plague from me. I am consumed by the blow of your hand. When with rebukes you correct man for iniquity, you make his beauty melt away like a moth. Surely every man is vapor. So we see here the same concept of somebody being quiet because they know they're foolish. And he says, I was mute. I did not open my mouth because it was you who did it. They know that they were being punished by God. We know Israel always knew that they were being punished by God, yet they did not listen to the prophets until the punishment actually came, and then it was too late to turn back, right? So when it's your fault, you shut up. Lamentations 3:39. Why should a living man complain and a man for the punishment of his sins? Jeremiah 8:14. Why do we sit still? Assemble yourself and let us enter the fortified cities and let us be silent there. For the Lord our God has put us to silence and given us water of gall to drink because we have sinned against the Lord. Why are they silent? Why are they not opening their mouth? Because they knew that they have sinned against the Lord. That right there kind of wraps up the whole concept of why these people being led to the slaughter are silent. They know that this is what they get. And actually, when you read the book of Lamentations, it's a pretty detailed account of people basically going through a lot of problems, and they knew they messed up and it was too late. Let us be silent, right? So again, in Jeremiah 8:14, why do we sit still? Assemble yourself and let us enter the fortified cities and let us be silent there. For the Lord our God has put us to silence and given us water of gall to drink because we have sinned against the Lord. So in Isaiah 53:7, we see he was oppressed, he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth. He was led as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before his shearers is silent, so he opened not his mouth. This is all applied to Israel so far. Read all Psalm 44 like I was going through. Read Jeremiah, read Lamentations. Read everything leading even up to the captivity going into Babylon itself. we see the concept of Isaiah 53:7 just being put in our face, right? Let him sit alone and keep silent because God has laid it on him. Lamentations 3:25-33. The Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. It is good that one should hope and wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. It is good for a man to bear the yoke in his youth. Let him sit alone and keep silent because God has laid it on him. Let him put his mouth to the dust. There may yet be hope. Let him give his cheek to the one who strikes him and be full of reproach. For the Lord will not cast off forever, though he causes grief, yet he will show compassion according to the multitude of his mercies. For he does not afflict willingly, nor grieve the children of men. We see all the concept of Isaiah 53 in here. Is it good that one should hope and wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord? For it is good for a man to bear the yoke in his youth. Let him sit alone and keep silent because God has laid it on him. Let him put his mouth to the dust. That's being quiet. We know that there's a problem going on, but I'm going to have to wait for God and let him sort this out. We are in affliction. They're being oppressed, but we're going to have to let God show his compassion, right? According to the multitude of his mercies. Only he can save us at this point. They know that they didn't listen. The prophets came to them. They didn't want to hear it. And now they're dealing with the penalties. John 18:33-37. So what about Jesus? Did he open his mouth? Then Pilate entered the praetorium again, called Jesus and said to him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered him, "Are you speaking for yourself about this, or did others tell you this concerning me?" That doesn't sound like he kept his mouth shut. Pilate answered, "Am I a Jew? Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, my servants would fight so that I should not be delivered to the Jews, but now my kingdom is not from here." Pilate therefore said to him, "Are you a king then?" Jesus answered, "You say rightly that I am a king. For this cause I was born. For this cause I have come into the world, that I should bear witness to the truth. Everyone who is the truth hears my voice." That's not being silent in front of the person who can kill you. That's not silent in front of, that's not the sheep being led to the slaughter. That's just not opening his mouth. Now, there were times when they did say stuff to him and he did keep quiet for a little bit. But we see right here in front of Pilate, the one who could have let him go, he got a lot to say. And of course, he says, "My kingdom is not of this world." Well, David's kingdom is of this world, right? When we talk about the suffering servant, we're dealing with somebody afflicted with diseases and all these things that it talks about in Isaiah 53. All this is pertaining to this world. He will see his seed, right? That's pertaining to this world. Sitting on the throne of David, Luke 132. That will pertain to this world. So this doesn't fit the narrative that Christians want to paint, trying to put Jesus into Isaiah 53. Matthew 26:63-64. But Jesus kept silent. So the Christians say, see right here, he's quiet. And the high priest answered and said to him, "I put you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God." Jesus said to him, "It is as you said. Nevertheless, I say to you, hereafter you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." He's not quiet right here. He says, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven. Matthew 27:11. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, saying, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus said to him, "It is as you say." So the people who arrested Jesus were those priests and stuff that came to him at night in the garden, right? Arrested him. Peter cut off the guy's ear. Jesus healed it, whatever. These are the same people asking Jesus questions, and he's talking to them. He's telling them, "You're going to see me coming at the right hand of power." Then when he gets in front of the governor, another person who's going to be responsible for his death, he's saying, "It is as you say." And we've seen the mouthful he gave Pilate in John 18. So I said this before. Jeremiah, David, Ezekiel, and of course the nation of Israel. If you pick apart Isaiah 53, you can apply those concepts to David, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel, just as Christians do to Jesus. Jeremiah 11:19. I was like a docile lamb brought to the slaughter, and I did not know that they had devised schemes against me, saying, let us destroy the tree with its fruit, and let us cut him off from the land of the living. So we know Jeremiah was physically led like a sheep to the slaughter. Out of right here, it says in Jeremiah 11:19, it says it, right? He was oppressed. They did not like him. They persecuted him, right? Jeremiah 38:5-9. Then Zedekiah the king said, look, he is in your hand, for the king can do nothing against you. So they took Jeremiah and cast him into the dungeon of Malchiah, the king's son. So remember when it says he like a taken from prison to judgment, he's taken to the dungeon. So he's taken to prison. He's already saying he's like a lamb led to the slaughter. They're talking about cutting him off from the land of the living. Now he's going to prison because they don't like him. They don't like his message, so they're oppressing him. I'm gonna read verse 6 again. So they took Jeremiah and cast him into the dungeon of Malchiah, the king's son, which was in the court of the prison. And they let Jeremiah down with ropes. And in the dungeon there was no water but mire. So Jeremiah sank in the mire. Now Ebed-Melech, the Ethiopian, one of the eunuchs who was in the king's house, heard that they had put Jeremiah in the dungeon. When the king was sitting at the gate of Benjamin, Ebed-Melech was out of the king's house, went out of the king's house and spoke to the king, saying, my lord the king, those men have done evil in all that they have done to Jeremiah the prophet. So they've done evil to him, whom they cast into the dungeon. He is likely to die from hunger in the place where he is, for there is no more bread in the city. So now, when it talks about God will save somebody, Jeremiah is going to get saved from his enemies, right? So when we apply the whole concept, we can see we can do the same thing with Jeremiah. And as a sheep before his shears is silent, so he opened not his mouth. So dealing with Matthew 26:62-64, the high priest arose and said to him, do you answer nothing? What is it these men testify against you? But Jesus kept silent. So we went over this before, but I just want to reiterate. The high priest answered and said to him, I put you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of God. Jesus said to him, it is as you said. Nevertheless, I say to you, hereafter you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven. Mark 15:2. Then Pilate asked him, are you the king of the Jews? He answered and said to him, it is as you say. So I'm showing you all the gospels are saying the same thing. So to try to pull that Jesus was silent in certain places, but talked so much in other places, it doesn't work. John 18:33-34. Then Pilate entered the praetorium and again called Jesus and said to him, are you the king of the Jews? Jesus answered him, are you speaking for yourself about this, or did others tell you this? So Matthew, Mark, and John are saying the same thing. Jesus had plenty to say in front of the people that were responsible for putting him to execute him. So if we break it down like we have done, when it says he was oppressed and he was afflicted, yet he opened not his mouth, he was led as a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before his shears is silent, so he opened not his mouth. Jesus was not oppressed. He was in prison for maybe one night, right? He did open his mouth. To say he was like a lamb led to the slaughter, I showed you how much Israel was basically the lamb led to slaughter in context with Psalm 44 and other verses. And as a sheep before his shears is silent, why is a sheep before his shears silent? Because they know they deserve the punishment and they're ashamed is why they don't have anything to say. Jesus is mouthy with everybody. He's not ashamed that he's about to be killed. He's got a lot to say. You know, he's arguing with people throughout the whole New Testament. So Jesus preached freely for like 3 years, untouched by the Romans and the rulers of Israel because they feared him. So how exactly was he oppressed? Right? Mark 11:18. And the scribes and the chief priests heard it and sought how they might destroy him, for they feared him, because all the people were astonished at his teaching. That's not oppression when people are scared of you. For 3 years he was oppressed, or for one night did they go and try to shut him up, right? So Jesus was possibly afflicted for 24 hours at the most. Deuteronomy 26:6. And the Egyptians evil entreated us and afflicted us and laid up on us hard bondage. Israel was afflicted and oppressed for years in Egypt. That's true oppression. When Israel was led into captivity to Babylon for 70 years, that's oppression. One night taken by the high priest and the scribes and Pharisees or whoever came and got him, that's not even comparing. We can't even compare the oppression to a whole people, to one person for one night. So when it says, yet he opened not his mouth, it doesn't apply. I showed he spoke plenty to Pilate and the chief priests after his arrest. And we know he argued and criticized the scribes, the Sadducees, and Pharisees, his entire ministry. So he didn't keep his mouth shut. He preached 3 years unhindered. So that's not oppression. Now, even in the New Testament, it says 1 Thessalonians 2:18, therefore, we wanted to come to you, even I, Paul, time and again, but Satan hindered us. So when was Jesus hindered in his ministry? He wasn't hindered like that. So does Satan ever hinder Jesus or stop or oppress him from doing anything? He asked him some questions, told him to, turn this rock into some bread, do these things, and I'll give you all these kingdoms. But who oppressed Jesus? When did that happen? When was he really silent? When did he really keep his mouth shut? He's arguing with people throughout the whole book, right? He even got some mouth for his mom and dad. Didn't you know I was about my father's business? When they asked him, where was you at? We was looking for you. So exactly how would you even apply Isaiah 53:1-6 to him when I'm showing you clearly you can apply this to Israel and even Jeremiah, David, and Ezekiel. Ezekiel bore the iniquities of Israel. Jeremiah said like he was a lamb led to the slaughter, right? David talked about he was oppressed all the time. David talked about they was hating on me and wanted me to die. So Isaiah 53:7 does not apply to Jesus. And with that, William, I will stop sharing my screen.
All right. Very good. Cool, man. It's all good. Every bit of it's so good and so necessary, like I said before. I mean, the thing with the lamb to the slaughter, I mean, it's expected. Like you said, it's like whether it's guilty or whatever the case may be. I mean, the lambs, I don't know, it's kind of it's a scary thing. Because when I was in Christianity, even when I heard all this stuff the first time, my first thought was, oh God, is he fooled, right? But then later on, over more exposure and things started to make more sense, it became really kind of freaky, like really scary. Like, holy cow, that means the whole entire existence of humanity and Christianity is in a cult. And I was like, there's no way. In my mind, my reason was, I was like, nope, there's no way this many people could be wrong. But then you see what Jesus' own words, narrow is the way and only few will find it. And even to date, Christianity is the largest spiritual group of people globally. So it's just...
Well, it's easy. It's easy. It's if you're listening to the Pauline doctrine, you're not under the law, you're under grace. You just basically be a good person.
Yep.
Right.
Right.
That's not hard for anybody, for any religion. That's just tell you to be a good person. And it says, if you're under the Spirit or led by the Spirit, you're not under the law.
Right.
So why was Jesus telling people to keep the law then?
Right.
And if he had the Holy Spirit, why was he born under the law? Why would he have to be under the law if he's led by the Spirit, which was him anyway, according to Trinitarians?
Yep, very true.
So,
good stuff, my friend. Well, you should have a great week, and blessings to you, my friend, for teaching all this stuff. It's good stuff. Good stuff.
Same to you. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes,
shalom
sir.
to the audience, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Later.